YouTube, welcome back. I'm getting ready to start on my next project. Quite a few years ago, I did a haunted pirate ship theme for my boys' elementary school, and in the captain's quarters, I had a pipe organ that I built out of foam board and poo noodles. I'm going to show a quick picture of that right now. As you can see in the picture, it's just like I used the poo noodles for essentially the pipe organ portion, painted them gold with a little bit of black and that kind of stuff. Then obviously the 3/4 wall board was on the bottom for the main base and all that stuff. And I painted the keys on there with just some white and black paint. I've since then obviously gotten rid of this prop. But I found another spot in my display that I'm going to be doing this year that I'd like to actually have that prop back. So I'm going to essentially build another one of those props, and I'm going to take you on my little journey of building this prop again. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's get started. All right, I went ahead and got started on this. I didn't want to bore y'all with all the measurement aspect of it. I figured I'd get all the measurements, get all my lines on there, and then try to explain the actual what the lines are for and how I come up with those lines. So I'm gonna try to do the best I can to kind of explain the method to this right here. All right, I'm gonna kind of try to see if I can explain how I come up with this the best way. First off, I made some sample pieces of those noodles. I measured this out. It's the 2 1/4, this particular size, or 2.25. And according to my picture, I'm trying to reference my picture the best I can because I don't have any of my original sizes or measurements. Is I noticed I had 11 across the back. So I took essentially this 2.25 times 11 gave me 24 3/4. But I also want to make sure that when I stick them inside here that I'm not crushing them tight. So I ended up giving myself 25.5 inches. So this way I have plenty of room. After I did that, I started off by squaring it up. So, squaring up these sides. And then I had to figure out how deep this needed to be. Now, my picture shows that I have the first 2 tubes in the back are stacked right on top of each other. And the front one is in between them. So that's what gave me my first line right here. So now I essentially have my first rectangle for all my tubes. So, and then this side right here, what I did is I didn't have any specific size in mind. I just picked 5 inches from here to here. I picked 5 because I wanted to make sure I had a nice little, kind of wing on it, but I didn't want it to be too tight. I didn't want it to be too left. So I went with 5 inches here. And then in my picture, I noticed that the side ones are not stacked on top of each other like this. They're actually kind of, sitting off center like this the whole way. So once I did that, that's what gave me the size for here, which ended up working out perfect. That it actually lined up with my line right here. It didn't be above or below. So it actually worked out. I ended up lining right up perfectly. But now after that, then I got to figure out how I'm going to essentially make the miter here to make everything look like it's flowing nice and smooth and doesn't look like it's closing up too much. So what I did is I started off by, after I got this squared up right here, so I got that line. I took this one right here and squared this one up, which gave me this line. So now I had these 2 original lines here to start with. Then I decided that I wanted the area for the keys to be about 3 inches. I figured that's going to be more than enough. So what it is, I measured 3 inches, all that, took my straight edge, and where they came to the point, right here at 3 inches. So then at that point, then I took my straight edge and went from this point to this point, and that's where I come up with that last third line that you see right here, that last line that comes right to this point. And what that's doing is that's giving me my even miter on both sides. So this way one side doesn't look longer than the other side. Kind of like baseboard or crown molding or something like that. If you have one that's longer than the other and the way they come together, it'll be blatantly obvious when one's definitely larger than the other side. I wanted to make them look like they were a nice, easy transition. All right, so I got my pieces cut. What I'm doing here is I'm figuring out how wide my base needs to be. And since obviously I'm going to have, each one of these is going to be kind of sitting, kind of like this. I gotta put these together in a manner that'll tell me how deep my base is going to be. But now what I'm doing is obviously most pianos, they they have a little bit extra material that hangs out past them. So I'm going to use that in this manner. So when I do kind of retract them back a little bit, I'll have that little extra overlap. So when it comes down, the keys will be set back in just a little bit. Because obviously this one will be in here, and then this one's going to end up being on top of this one, and then kind of vice versa. And that one's going to be on top. So I'm going to be losing 1.5 inches of space by the time these are set where they need to be. So this is showing that I have 20 1/4. Let me write that down. 20 1/4. Now, what my plan is to, let me try to draw this out, is to essentially come up to a certain point, and I come out it's only going to come out the depth of this right here, because I want it to be able to hide the backside of where the tubes are coming in. And then it's going to curve, it's going to come down, and then it'll stair step like this, and then I'll probably do a second stair step as it meets each one of these key levels. So by the time I get to the bottom measurement will be this right here. And obviously this measurement from this point to this point will be another size, and then obviously this point to this point will be this size right here, whatever this one is. So it'll be a three-stage kind of system, but I'm going to base it off how tall I want the overall unit, and then after I figure all that out, then I'll transfer it onto that piece and start cutting the sides out. All right, now how I'm going to determine how tall the first set of keys are going to be, so I can go from there. I'm going to base off zones. I'm going to have one of these posable skeletons sitting on it. So I'm just going to base it off and say he's sitting in a chair. And then his hands are kind of at a little bit of a thing like that right there. So let's figure from the bottom of his foot, give or take, about his hands. Looks to be about 26 inches. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and assembled this part first. So I have my shape of those 2 levels of where the keys are going to go, and then the area where the noodles are going to go. So what I did, I took my piece and I went with that measurement that I had of 26 inches to the bottom of the first set of keys. So that's what I did. I stuck that, made that measurement, stick right there, and then figured out where I wanted it to be from that point. I just put it on here. So like I want a little overlap. So now this is 26 inches, so I have that area right there. This is up here, and this will come straight across, so it'll hide the bottom half of the noodles where they're glued to the base. And then this will go up and hold the backside. So I'm going to go ahead and trace this out so I know where to put my caulking. I'm going to start screwing this together. And I'll cut a back piece, screw the back piece on, and then go from there. Alright, you kind of see that the front is not staying where it needs to be. Obviously, I must have a little bit of a perfect cut here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some caulking on the actual seam, so I'm going against the foil to foil. I'm just going to wrap some tape around this thing, to squeeze it tight. And with that, so this way it'll allow that to dry overnight. And then once it's dry overnight, then I can continue with working on it.
I decided not to do the tape idea because when I've done that in the past, and when I go to pull the tape off, it always tends to rip the foil. And if you leave the tape on there, the paint doesn't look the same. So what I did is I have an extra one of those drywall squares that I cut one end off a while back. Don't remember why, but I did. And what I did is I just took a couple of those quick grips, put one attached to the square and the other one right there, so I could put it, right on the foil on the side, and I could just squeeze it and push the unit together. And you can see what I did is I just took, caulking, made sure I got it nice and heavy. Obviously this is the bottom, you're not going to see this, so I'm not too worried about it looking super nice. The top I made look nice. I do have a small confession to make. While I was making the initial piece, the part right there that curves like that, I started off with the full 48 inches. Well, what ended up happening, obviously, by the time I added the side pieces, it now made my unit grow an inch and a half wider. So what I had to do is after I screwed it together and went to go do the back piece and realized my error, I had to take it back apart. I had to take 3/4 of an inch off this side, 3/4 of an inch off this side, just to make sure that I still keep it square, and then reassemble everything. And then that's when you saw me put the back piece on. So everything is now at 48 inches outside to outside like it should be. But that was a little error on my end. I didn't compensate for the side pieces, but you can see it's the main structure's put together. Just got to wait for that to dry. I got to make my curved pieces for the back. There'll be some thin pieces cut that'll go from essentially the line right there up to here, and then that's what I'll be able to butt the noodles against, and the noodles across there, and the same here, and then get ready to start painting it, putting the keys on it, and finishing it up. All right, it's the next day. I'm getting started on these right here. These are going to be going right on that line. And that's what's going to be the taper portion of that. All I did is I just cut a piece out, and you can see where I just used my knife and just carved it into, a wedge on one side, then the other side. So this way it lays as flat as possible, within the space. And then what that's going to do is that's going to make it square. The X amount of tubes that go here, and then the ones that go here, it gives me my backer. Plus, also it matches the taper of my keyboard key area. Now the brace, I'm going to go ahead and leave that on there for a little longer, just to make sure that caulking is fully dry before I take it off. But that's not going to affect me from working on this section right here. So I'm going to get those glued in place, and then I'm going to start figuring out the height of each tube and go from there.
Alright, to kind of show how I come up with my line configuration is I went ahead and I took the longest one of these, my drops, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to utilize my drops, for here, and they'll taper down, this way. So what I did is I took the longest one and measured from here to here, which gave me, I think it was 22 and a half. So obviously I divided that by 2, which gave me 11 and a quarter. So I did 11 and a quarter from here to here, and I did 11 and a quarter from here to here. I actually went the opposite direction the first way, and that's where I kind of got this line right here, which obviously you can tell is way off. But I went from the top down, from here to here, here to here, drew my line. So this way I have the same even reveal all the way. And then what I'll do is, so I can maximize out my material, I figured obviously the drops, I can use the drops down here. So what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to use all the pieces that I originally cut, for here, to be able to be used for here. To maximize out the material, and then the ones that I got to cut for here, those drops I'll be able to use for those over there. Now I don't think I bought enough. I'm gonna have to probably go pick up some more. I want to go ahead and get the center section done first, and then I'll figure out what I need to finish the sides. All right. Okay, when it comes to these things, I haven't really found much in the way of like a particular caulking or silicone or super glue or something like that kind of will help hold these things together. Once the whole prop is together, it kind of tends to hold itself. But what I do is I put a bead across the bottom so I can try to capture into the pores here a little bit, and then I put a little one in the middle just to help with any wiggling, and then I run a screw through the top side. Now I run it at an angle like this where you won't see it, and whether that'll hold that on there. And then I also did on the back side, back here, I actually have screws ran through. And I always run them at an angle because if I run them at an angle, I'll catch more of the material. So this way it tends to hold better, than if you just run it straight through. So.
So it looks like for this prop, for this size, and the height that I went with, I needed about 25 of the pool noodles, and I only bought 20. So a minimum, I need at least 3 more, but just in case I have a miscut, I'm going to get 2 extras. So the total would have been 25 of them total to do this one. And I just picked these things up at like the dollar store, so they're only $1 a piece. So it's not too terrible. It'll be about 25 bucks in those little noodle things. But I think they definitely look better than if you're to try to use something else, and it keeps the prop super lightweight. But we will return back to this once I get more material. All right, pretty much got it all done. I'm ready to put some paint on it. You can see where I put some reinforcements down here. I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but that's just to kind of help make sure that this doesn't get like a sag over time. The brown I'm going to be using is a very kind of a lighter brown. The reason why is because I know I'm going to want to do a little bit of aging on this to give it the look of that it's much older. So I'm going to be putting some black in a few areas, probably a little extra concentrated in some areas. Now, I don't want it to get too dark, so I'm going with a little bit of a lighter brown, so it gives me a little more room to work with when I go to do the blacks and that kind of stuff. After all that's done, these will be painted a gold kind of color. That's going to kind of simulate like an old copper kind of look to it. And then on the top, I'll probably do a little bit of black up in these areas to kind of simulate probably like a dust, or like condensation or stuff like that, and maybe like a little bit of a trail or something like that to show like, runoff, from dust and that kind of stuff. And then I might, put gold like on these areas, that kind of stuff. I'm not really sure yet. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get it all. I'm going to get it all painted brown. I'm going to get all these painted brown, so this way they're one neutral color. So when I do the gold over it, I hopefully don't see like a transition between the two. The brown's going to be dark enough to essentially hide the difference between the two colors. I'm not sure if the gold will, so I'm going to make sure it's all one color, and then I can neutralize it after that. Everything's all dry. The brown is dry. The gold is dry. I went ahead and painted the gold on here. All I used was just an aerosol can. It's called a metallic 18 karat gold. Pick it up from a hobby store. Now, if you notice when I painted it, I have a lot of dull areas because I'm going with like an old antique, sitting inside of a dilapidated structure kind of look. So, they're going to have tarnish on them. They're going to have dull spots, bad areas, and that kind of stuff. So that's why I kind of left a lot of areas where it's not perfect. Plus, I'm going to put a little bit of green on here to simulate, tarnished areas, and then a little bit of black and that kind of stuff. But now, if you're going for more of like a brand new style look, then make sure they're fully covered and they look really good. But that's not what I'm going for my particular setup. Another thing to keep in mind is on the noodles, when you buy them, they have the little barcodes, a little sticker on them. Make sure those are facing towards the back where you're not going to see them. I don't know if the camera's really picking it up too much, but like say here, I got one over here, where when I peeled that sticker off, it actually kind of pulled on the material and actually disrupted the actual finish of the pool noodle. So now when I painted it, those areas kind of stand out a little bit. I actually have a couple more like over here, but they're more towards the side, so you don't want to see them as much. So just try to keep those in the back so you don't end up with that problem. But I'm getting ready to start on doing the key area. What my plan is to measure over about 1.5 inches from this corner and maybe 1.5 inches from this corner right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a speed square because I want to make sure that my lines are straight. I'm just going to put a speed square against the flat portion of here and draw a line both ways
What that's going to do is that's going to give me a nice, perfect rectangle space right here. And then I'm going to measure how wide it is, and I'm going to try to figure out exactly how many keys I can fit in there. That measurement might alter just a little bit because if say I want each key to be 3/4 of an inch wide, and say from here to here, and I do it, it comes up with an odd number. I might have to make this one a little wider this way or a little wider that way, but I'll figure that out as I do it. So I'm going to start off by making a few lines here, obviously here, and here, and see what my measurement is going to be and what's going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. Now for that old-fashioned saying, it's like watching paint dry. So once the white's dry, then I'll come back. I'll start measuring out my lines. I use a straight edge. I'll just use some magic markers, all I really need, and then I'll figure out the black key area. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the keys now. Now what I did is I took a piece of 1x and I sanded it down to make it where it's only 5/8 of an inch wide, because I'm going to go with 3/4 inch keys. And I got to think, by the time you get the thickness of the marker, when you draw a line, you draw another line, the thickness of that marker is going to make it X amount. It's going to make it closer to that 3/4. So I don't want to have this 3/4 because then by the time I get to the end, I'm going to have an oddball sized key, which I might still end up with an oddball sized key. You just never know. But by sanding it down to 5/8, that gives me a little bit more room to do that. So what I'm going to do for the initial start, I'm going to make sure that I start with a nice square edge, square line right off this, and then I'll just hold a piece of wood and just mark it all the way down to the end. I'm going to do that on all of them. Once I get that done, then I will go ahead and start mapping out the black keys. All right, I went online and looked up piano keys just to see what their configuration was, and it looks like they're running in a pattern of like 1, 2, 3, and then it skips, and then you have 1, 2, then you have a skip, and then 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, like that. So you can see I already got some lines. You probably can't see it in the camera. I was trying to keep them as small as possible just in case I had to make some adjustments. But I have some lines on here where I'm going to do 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, like that. So I'm just going to take a brush with some black paint. I'm just going to pretty much go on here and just kind of come out to a certain point and stop, and then go to the next one. And then I might come back with a little bit finer brush just to, square off the edge to make it look a little bit cleaner. All right, what I'm doing here is I'm just touching up the black lines a little bit. I went ahead and took a little straight edge, ran it across here with a small pencil to make sure all the black keys were the same distance. And I just took a little bit of white paint and just kind of dabbed it over top of where maybe like a little bit kind of overhang. So I'm just, essentially finishing the line back out again and touching up some that might be a little, maybe a little light in color like this one right here. And so I'm pretty much at the point where I'm getting ready to take it outside and start doing the black paint on it. I'm going to do a little bit of black and a little bit of green. The black is going to be for areas like here and here because it's a surface area where like dust and stuff like that would have collected over the years. Also on top of the key area, I'm also going to kind of try to give it the look of like where the keys have been played. So what I might do is I might mist some black over it, take my hands, get them wet, and I might kind of touch in a few spots like this to kind of make it look like where their fingers have rubbed off like dust and dirt, that kind of stuff, to kind of give it like a look that it's been played after it's been dirty before. And now I'm going to put a little bit of black up on the tubes a little bit, up on top here where it's say like, dust and stuff would have collected. And I'm going to put a little bit of green on it to kind of give it like the look of like it's tarnished a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take it outside, get it set up, and I'm going to go ahead and start working on that. Alright, I got the spray gun all hooked up, got my black in there. So I'm going to lightly just kind of go over areas. I don't want to try to get it too heavy, I just want to get it a little bit. I'm going to put black, and then I might do a little bit of like a light gray over top of that to give it more of like a dust kind of look. And then like I said, I'm going to do the keys, and then I have a little thing of water right here that I'll try to do the thing with the finger. So see how this works out. Now for a light mist of gray to give it a little more of like a dust look. Now for the last step, the green. Like I said, the green is just going to be a little bit of tarnish in a few areas. I'm not going to get carried away with it. Just a few areas just to kind of give it a little bit of like kind of that look. Some of it's mostly going to be in the areas I was talking about where the stickers kind of messed my finish up. Well, it looks like we got ourselves an antique pipe organ. I would like to say that I think this one is done. You see where I did the black, the gray, and the green on it. I was trying to go for the look of just an old, pipe organ sitting in the back of an old church, or something of that nature that hasn't really been played a whole lot over the years. That's kind of the look I was going for. Let me get a little closer and show some of the details and kind of explain some of the stuff. You see where I did the black and grays to simulate, dust buildup. Did a little more in the corners to really give it that look that the dust is kind of built up in the areas that doesn't really get touched much. I also did the same thing on the keys. Did a little bit of black, a little bit of gray on them. Did the whole thing with the water with the fingers, and you see where I kind of wiped on it to kind of give it the look like somebody was kind of playing it after the keys were dirty. You have to leave me a comment, tell me if it kind of gives that illusion that somebody's fingers were almost kind of wiping off any of the old dust and debris that was stuck on the keys. I got the greens on there. The green is supposed to kind of simulate that if this is an old brass or copper tubes that they get a little bit of tarnish due to moisture, condensation, that kind of stuff. The black is for if say you got a bunch of dust and dirt and stuff like that that is accumulated at the bottom of the tube. So obviously once they go to play it and that air bursts through the pipe to make the sound, that's going to blow all that dirt and dust out. Well, it's going to obviously probably stick to any adjacent tube. So that's kind of what I kind of did there with the black you see there. That's what that was for. The last step I did after I did all that is because when you use a sprayer, you will always get overspray and it'll kind of look like you put on too much. So I just took a wet paper towel and just literally wiped the entire surface off to take off any excess oversprays. So it kind of, makes it so it doesn't look so like you put too much on there. It actually, brings it back to kind of where you want it to be. But all in all, I think this one came out pretty good. You have to leave me a comment, tell me what you think. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.